Good morning, goat lovers! Welcome to the Happy Harvest Homestead. It has been a very long time since I have made a video about our goats, so today I will give you a complete update on our Nigerian Dwarf dairy goat herd. In case you don't remember everything about our goats, I'll first give you a quick overview of our herd before we dive into the update so you can get a more complete picture. We bought our first two Nigerian Dwarf does, Millie and Aria, in February of 2020. They were half-sisters, sharing the same father but having different mamas. We later added Penny and her daughter Tessa to our small herd in August of 2020. A few months later, in November of 2020, we took Millie and Aria to get bred. Then about 5 months later, they both had babies in May of 2021. A few months after that, Aria died in a freak accident in July of 2021. After his mama's death, we decided to keep one of Aria's babies, Keely, as a breeding buck, because all of our remaining does are not closely related to him. A few weeks after Aria's death, Penny started randomly producing milk, even though she didn't have babies and was not pregnant, and I believe that is the last video I made about our goats. Since then, we have sold the 3 bucklings we did not want to keep, Keely's brother and both of Millie's kids. So now we are down to 1 buck, Keely, and 3 does, Penny, Millie, and Tessa. Millie reached the end of her lactation, and we dried her off a few months ago. And Penny is slowing down in milk production now too, so we plan to dry her off soon as well. And of course, the cycle of breeding must continue if we want milk. So in preparation for the next year, we bred all 3 does a few months ago in November of 2021. Kidding season will be very interesting this spring. Penny is an experienced mother and has had a few batches of kids before. Millie has given birth only once before, and this will be Tessa's first kidding. So here's hoping that all of our goat births go smoothly this spring. But all of that possible drama is still months away. Currently, caring for our goats is very easy since it's wintertime. We have decided to keep all 4 of our goats living together for the winter. Since all 3 does are pregnant, we can keep Keely, our buck, with them and not use a buck apron, though we will have to get him an adult-size apron before the girls start giving birth this spring. Our goats currently spend most of their time in our barn, but they are let out into what we call the triangle garden when the weather permits. Because it is wintertime, this garden space is no longer being used for growing plants, so instead of just letting it go unused all winter long, we have turned this space into a temporary goat pen. Not only does this give them a bigger space to run around, but the ground also benefits from their manure. The plants that we will grow in this space this upcoming spring will have access to a whole bunch of goat poop that will give them extra nutrients. By this point, you have probably noticed the Christmas tree we have in the goat pen. Every year, we like to recycle our tree after the Christmas season is over, and letting our goats enjoy eating it benefits both them and us. They seem to enjoy rubbing on it just as much as they like nibbling it, though. In addition to the Christmas tree, hay feeder, and water bucket, we have a few shelters in here for the goats as well. While neither shelter is enclosed enough to offer proper protection from the winter elements, the goats are only out here when the weather is nice, so they don't need super warm shelters while they're out here. When the weather is bad, instead of bringing the goats out in the pen in the morning and putting them back in the barn at night, we just leave the goats in the barn all day where they are dry and protected from wind. Speaking of the goat barn, here it is. Let me give you a quick tour since we've changed a few things since I last made a video about it. Right next to the door, we have our hay feeder. Also in the barn are 2 stalls for when our mamas give birth and for separating babies at night. The other half of the barn is taken up by our rabbit colony. You may be noticing that some parts of the goat barn have bedding in them and others don't. I recently have been experimenting with not using bedding for our goats. Because of the way the stall doors and the door to the rabbit colony are set up, it often becomes hard to open the doors when the goat bedding piles up. Eventually, I got frustrated one time too many and decided to try a different method of keeping the goat barn clean. Now, instead of cleaning out the soiled bedding or putting fresh bedding on top in a deep bedding method, I use a shovel to scrape up the goat poop and spilled hay. Eventually, when all the bedding piles are out of here, I will scoop everything into a bucket and dump it in the garden or compost pile. But for now, I just scrape everything onto one of the big bedding piles. Because this soiled bedding is so rich in goat waste goodness, we don't want to just toss it out. Our plan is to use it as mulch in the garden, but we can't put all of the bedding in the garden just yet. We still need to do a lot of cleanup of last year's garden before we prepare the dirt and plant things this spring. So as we slowly work on cleaning up the garden in between cold spells, the goat bedding will stay in piles in the barn. Whenever a garden spot is cleared and ready for mulch, our piles of bedding decrease in size, but it will be a while until they are completely gone. Caring for our goat herd in winter is pretty easy. Since we have put in an orchard this past year, our goats cannot free range anymore until we get it fenced in. So they will continue to get shuffled from the barn to the empty garden until spring, when we will start picketing them again. Penny is our only goat still in milk, and she is fast approaching the time when we will dry her off. So pretty soon our twice-a-day milking chores will be gone as well, making our daily goat care even more easy and quick. So really nothing much is happening currently with the goats, just regular daily chores, monthly deworming, clipping hooves, and the occasional petting session. Of course, when spring rolls around and the babies start to come, there will be a lot more goat content. But until then, you'll most likely hear our goats more in the background of my other videos than you'll actually see them in a video. So until next time, thanks for watching!